Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Duffy Duck here once again, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby Superstar, aka Kirby's Fun Pack for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom, for those who lived in Japan. So last time we actually did tackle through those two games of the bunch, which are Spring Breeze, which is essentially a remake of Kirby's Dream Land 1, and also Gourmet Race, despite the fact that I've already won 2 races except the third and final course, probably due to how the fact that, well, it's been a long while since I actually memorized the level design on that particular, shorter game as this. So today for this episode, folks, is the fact that we're going to be moving on into the third game of this game and this bunch has to offer, and that's the forms of Dyna Blade. So, even though that we're actually going to be coming across into, not only the familiar enemies that we've all known and loved from the old days, but also some new ones as well. Dyna Blade is destroying all of the Crobes. She must be stopped. Master the different abilities and defeat her. And the difficulty rating on this game this time is 3 stars, and still we haven't got any of our high scores on it just yet. So, yeah, let's get started with Dyna Blade. But first, before we're able to get into this game, once again we have to leave our title screen running until we get ourselves our introducing scene. So, and as far as I'm aware for this particular scene alone, all that happens was though is the fact that Dyna Blade managed to come into Dreamland, and it's up to Kirby to stop her. So let's get started here. Shall we explain copy? God damn it! No. Here's how you do copy abilities. God. I already hate that how that happens in this version. But again, what we actually discuss upon later upon the Kirby Superstar Ultra for the DS, which thankfully though it managed to fix that issue I had with the tutorial segment. So anyway, Dyna Blade is actually quite different compared to how it does it in forms of Spring Breeze and Gourmet Race, because in Spring Breeze is essentially a remake of Kirby's Dream Land 1 for the Game Boy. And then Gourmet Race is basically we need to race against with King DDD, whoever gets the most gobble food first, and then, or not to mention where you try to able to beat King DDD in the forms of 3 courses alone. But in this game, it's basically kind of like how it does it in the forms of Spring Breeze slightly, except the fact that we now got ourselves our world map screen this time, as opposed to how it does it in Translate to different stage to another, or the next stage to the next. So, but even though it's still pretty much exactly the same gameplay as how it does it in Spring Breeze. And I'm sure enough though that the major differences here is the fact that we actually come across into a different villain this time, but in forms of Dyna Blade. So even then though, that Dyna Blade's first appearance was obviously in this game alone, probably due to how the fact that, well, it makes it incredibly different when it comes to villain bosses and all that stuff. But even then though, that's as far as I can tell for this point and throughout. So anyway, so let's mind over for that little Gordo right there, because obviously Gordo once again trying to hurt you to hell. But anyways though, a few things I want to mention about this is that today was actually forms of the 16th of March, during the likes of 2018, so you know what that means folks, today, Kirby Star Allies is finally saw the release dates today, in the forms of Nintendo Switch, from all over the world. So even then, I'm really excited to be able to actually try myself that game out. In fact, I actually now got the game by the forms of pre-ordering from Amazon.co.uk. But unfortunately though, due to how the stocking issues, it does have a little bit of a problematic at the moment for me. That's only because of how the fact that I did manage to double check on the actual Kirby Star Allies game on the Amazon. For some reason, it doesn't seem to actually get ourselves our pricing range, but even then though, that's as far as I can really just try to tell for that point or another, but I digress. But even then, I'm still looking forward to actually trying that game out, and I think that's the perfect example of how the fact that I decided to go for this game. Originally, I decided to actually tackle for this game around the same day as when Kirby Star Allies has been released, probably due to the teaming up with the enemies and turn them onto a good side. But a little bit too early for my liking, but even then though, that's already been too early as it is. So even then I was able to actually get into the, the next Kirby game we're about to get started with. So even then, that I must confess about that right about now. So anyways, let's go ahead and enter this next couple of doors notice. So Man, I really do love the detail about the actual background environment in this game this time around, rather than just being completely entirely flat. But this game does have a lot more details, because even then, you know, it's in 16-bit console this time, but it forms of the Super Nintendo. So yeah, you get the idea what this little suggestions notice. So, anyways, there's also quite a few things I just want to mention about this, is that, recently, I was really hoping they're going to be bringing up a new announcement of the forms of the next Sonic game, to be more specifically, the next Sonic racing game, which even then though, that, as far as I've heard from rumors, they're trying to only bring only the Sonic characters, instead of like the Sega guest characters this time, unlike how it does it in the 2010 installment, or especially noticeable with this sequel, when it forms of All-Stars Racing Transformed. In fact, I would like to able to actually just decide to do a Let's Play of, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, or no, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, if I will say that much. Oh, here's the most famous, Kirby ability in the game. It's Cook Kirby. You remember that Kirby ability that's usually based off from? That was when Kirby managed to use that, in the forms of... Oh wow, that was really terrible shot. I just not even noticed that, actually. But anyways, yeah, for Cook Kirby, what he does is that he basically acts like a screen nuke of any sort, but differences between... I think it's kind of like how he does it in Crash ability, and especially with the Mike ability. You can actually just manage to use it once, just like how it does it in your forms of, you know, the Crush ability. But except the fact that you can now able to actually absorb enemies all the way into this little, cooking boiled pot. And then what happens is, though, is the fact that it'll transform enemies into those goodies, like, for instance, food. Which even then, that will come in really handy. And of course, that will be very noticeable until before when Super Smash Bros. Brawl exists, that Kirby's Final Smash was actually based off from Cook Kirby. Not so much for Kirby's, no, Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 3DS and for the Nintendo Wii U, because in those two games, that normally Kirby's Final Smash in the latest Smash Bros. Game was actually Ultra Sword based off from, you know, Kirby's Adventure Wii. Sorry for a little bit of a confusion tangent right there. So, I definitely noticed there's gonna be some secrets around here, so I might as well able to actually keep on exploring. So even I know that, yeah. Just like the ones in Kirby's Adventure, there's gonna be some secret switches to find in this particular game. In fact, no matter what though, unlike the ones in Kirby's Adventure / Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland for the Game Boy Advance, which I'll get into more details onto that game until when we get to June at one point. Basically, there are quite a few switches to find in the forms of Kirby's Adventure. In this particular Dyna Blade game, only contains only 2 switches this time, probably because of how the fact that they pretty much limited the amount of switches you can get. This is probably due to, again, compilation gamers of any kind. So, but even then, I've heard there's going to be 1 secret switch in this level, which we'll definitely have to find that. And then, if we're able to find one of those, secret switches, that way we can actually access 2 secret areas. Which even then, we're not going to get into those kinds of stuff when we get into later portions of this throughout. But even then, that's as far as I can go. But anyways, let's go ahead and climb all the way up. And, yeah, not much to tell, but even then, as far as the actual environments themselves, it kind of feels almost exactly similar. Oh, that's going to be really awesome for this Kirby ability. This is, without a doubt, one of the best Kirby abilities in any other Kirby games thus far, and that is the forms of Mirror Kirby. What this particular Kirby ability is so awesome for me is the fact that you can able to actually use the mirror shards, or the mirrors themselves, to able to act out like projectiles, and also you can actually duplicate yourself in your forms of, just trying to able to actually just use, I'm assuming double team, kind of like how it does in a Pokemon move, like Zuzor managed to perform a double team of any kind, and, well, there goes my teammate. Anyway though, so yeah, you can perform a double team ability as you can see here when you're able to perform walking or dashing, if whatever you prefer trying to do that. Oh great, we got ourselves our auto-scoring section right there. Kinda like how it does it in Kirby's Dream Land 2. But even then, except the fact that, well, I don't usually find the auto-scoring sections to be that much of an issue in this game this time, compared to how it does it in Kirby's Dream Land 2. This is probably because I'm so used to with how the fact that, well, there's one thing I haven't really talked about for this point, folks, is that, as you can tell, Kirby's acrobatics, but in forms of trying to actually float up, is actually a little bit more improvement this time. rather than just keep on, you know, pressing the directional pad up before you're able to actually keep on floating. In this game, especially with the future installments, it will go into the A button, or in this case, the jump button this time, like the B button in this game, and the A button in later games, and even especially noticeable with 2 button from the forms of, you know, Kirby's Adventure Wii or Kirby's Return to Dreamland and all that etc. stuff. So even then though, really impressive how they actually did manage to fix that in the future games. So, I digress. So here we go ourselves our real Kirby, and this particular imagery of Kirby right there as a sprite looks kind of familiar. It reminds me of something related to a awesome YouTube channel out there called Slim Kirby, which currently is still working on Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga for the Game Boy Advance, probably due to recently in Mario & Luigi's Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions on the 3DS did recently came out and during it not too long ago actually. And then thankfully though, Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey will be on its way on the 3DS until next year. And even then though, that marks the 10th anniversary of the original DS version of Bowser's Inside Story. It might be a perfect opportunity if that's gonna happen though. But even then though, I'm really looking forward to that. But anyways though, yeah, if you manage to destroy that, we have ourselves another secret area right there, which only leads you to just 1-ups, and that's all you're really trying to do here. Well, that's a bit of a unusual technique right there, which by the looks of it though, we got ourselves a bungee jump. And that will does it for now. So yeah, the minigame, as far as the actual goal minigame is concerned, it's kind of like how it does it in the forms of both Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land 2, like you normally have to jump up vertically, but this time it's horizontal this time. But even then though, it looks a little bit more similar to that. Speaking of such, what's up with that E icon, I wonder? Oh, it transports us into a mini-fight of any sort. This does remind me of almost related to Super Mario Bros. 3, when you manage to come across into this hidden events, or mainly the enemy courses for example. Basically you have to bump into just trying to able to defeat those mini bosses as you can. But even then, no, that's all you're really trying to do with those particular situations like this. From here, this is where you're able to find yourselves a Kirby ability room. But even then, no, there's only 2 of those Kirby ability rooms in Dyna Blade. But even then, no, that's as far as we can actually tell for this point, because even then, we're going to be moving on to the next ability we're going to be showing you guys throughout, is the Plasma. I really do like Plasma in this game, but until when we get to the future Kirby games, the Plasma ability will become super rocking as all hell, or in this case, super awesome indeed. But even then though, that's all you can do with Plasma is the fact that you can able to actually just send out, well, Spark ability, or in this case, just Plasma projectiles right at enemies. Although, there's one thing I haven't mentioned about this actually, is that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that this game was only released on the Super Nintendo. That means there's going to be a lot more buttons to actually work with this time. Controls-wise in this game, I need to briefly mention about this, is that once again you have to walk around with the directional pad with Kirby and all that. And pressing the B button is to jump this time instead of the usual A button. This is probably because of the Super Nintendo games always trying to make you focus to able to actually press the B button at all times instead of like the A button. This is probably due to how the fact that when you're trying to use the Super Nintendo controller, especially with the Nintendo Wii's classic controller, or even the Nintendo Wii U Pro controller, despite the fact the directional pad is actually way more further down than the likes of the Nintendo Wii's classic controller. But even then though, in this particular portion is the fact that the reason why that many people seem to don't use the GameCube controller support on Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console versions of the Super Nintendo games themselves, this is probably because of the very odd pattern, or in this case oddly laid out buttons, mainly in the B or Y buttons. So that makes it pretty obvious what this situation goes. So anyways, and just like how it does in Spring Breeze, as you can see there, I've ranked up to my 1-ups count up to 11. So even I know, still a very easy way to get yourselves extra lives for these. Especially with hidden areas, and especially noticeable with just, you know, other things entirely too. But even then, no, that's as far as I can mainly count. But anyways, so let's go ahead and just get ourselves our Plasma right here. The Plasma Wisp. Wait. Isn't that name kind of familiar? It kind of reminds me like a wisp as it forms of a before Sonic colors his new friend's name, which kind of reminds me of that, although I'm not exactly sure for that. But anyways though, another secret area which actually contains just more food and the 1-up right there. Can't be bothered to get the 1-up because it's already in the bottomless pit below, so yeah, as far as I can tell. So anyway though, there's another thing I'd like to talk for this point, folks, is that recently the fact that actually before we get to this kind of stuff, here's the most coolest part about Kirby Superstar and the future games and onwards, the most recently by the forms of Triple Deluxe, and especially with Planet Robobots, and even Kirby Star Allies, the most recent Kirby games being released. You can actually see there's some really cool references when you're able to actually perform yourselves a stone ability for Kirby, which even then though, as you can tell, we got ourselves our rock formation by the forms of Kirby statue, which I found is really cool. And oh yeah, there's another thing I'd like to point out, is that I think somewhat similar to how it does in Kirby's Adventure, that normally Kirby is actually depends on what Kirby abilities you can get. Kirby can now actually go himself a different color scheme this time, as opposed to how he does it in Kirby's Dream Land 2, because you know Kirby's Dream Land 2 usually just stuck with black and white, unless if you play the Super Game Boy. Normally you can get color, and especially with Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, or even especially noticeable with Game Boy Player, which even that makes it pretty obvious. So anyways, taking a notice from Wacky Workbench from Sonic CD, we can actually ride on these things, kind of like how it does in Wacky Workbench from, you know, Sonic CD. Even though despite the fact that I've already hated the Wacky Workbench, just because it's all chaotic and all that stuff, but even then, no, it's not a pleasant welcoming for that sort of circumstances though anyway. Seems that more accurately, we're actually on the halfway point in Dyna Blade already, because much like how it does in Spring Breeze, it might actually take a little bit longer compared to how it does in Spring Breeze, because it only took you about 10 minutes or so, probably due to actually they're missing out just only one level by the forms of, you know, Castle Low, and a missing boss is actually forms of the Capoeira. And what are you doing? What is going on? What is going on with these weird collision detections right there? Anyways though, so we've now finished up with level 3, and huzzah! And it's kind of weird that my bar has actually gone significantly white compared to the usual red. But even then now, we got ourselves all 3 1-ups. Just like how it does in new forms of Kirby's Adventure and stuff like that. So yeah, you get the idea. Level 4, I believe this level will also contains a secret switch, which I might as well able to find out, but even then, we don't exactly know when. So anyways, let's go ahead and obtain the fire ability. Now, the fire ability, much like how it does in new forms of Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land 2, that ability makes a return, except the fact that the fire itself could now actually do 2 moves this time. Or in this case, the fire copy ability even. First off, you can now able to perform a flamethrower while just simply stand there and just perform itself a fire copy ability. In addition to that though, if you manage to jump in midair, you can actually perform itself a somewhat of an instant shield or an instant fire shield or something like that. Kind of reminds me like an instant shield from Sonic the Hedgehog 3, or in this case Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles even. And oh, it looks like I need a hammer for that particular, just trying to, you know, knock down or hammer that particular knob there. Sorry for a little bit of a dialogue error or anything like that for this point, folks, because, you know, there's not much else we can discuss for this point. Besides, you know, I wonder what's going to be the next Sonic game is going to be announced, thanks to, you know, SXSW panel 2018, because last year they've already discussed upon how the fact that, you know, the Sonic Mania's new zone by the forms of, or in this case, the returning zone from Sonic and Knuckles, which is Flying Battery Zone, and some more briefly, I don't know, I really hate these enemy placements sometimes, they always respawn sometimes. But anyways, here's the new mechanic right there, which forms of the cannons themselves, which even though that way it just leads you to a different part of the level, and that's all you're really trying to notice something right from the start. And the reason why I'm just here is because of that glorious 1-up. So naturally I've got about 15 1-ups. That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot of 1-ups if we actually get ourselves possible to able to actually just to get even more. Although, unfortunately, though, much like how it does in the forms of, I would say, Sonic Adventure and all that stuff, and even especially in Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, your lives will always have to reset every time when you're trying to start the new games up, but in forms of, just between different games or stories. See, Veneno is kind of similar to that. And speaking of such, we got ourselves our new Kirby ability introduced in this game, Wing. Basically, you can able to actually fly with it, and you can also just manage to use your feathers to act like projectiles, which even then, that's actually really awesome indeed. And let's go ahead and use our Fire Kirby ability to actually light up the cannon itself, and we can simply just hop onto it, much like how it does in Kirby's Adventure and all that stuff. And we blast off, and we get ourselves some hidden goodies, like 1-up first off, and also supply of food. Pretty awesome, I should say, and now we've got ourselves 16 1-ups, so not too shabby and not too bad either. Oh god, there's gonna be a lava elements to the mix. Kind of odd though, but I kept on getting hit quite a few times though, I just realized. Anyway, so speaking of Sonic and Knuckles and all that stuff, recently that Sega did recently announce there's gonna be a next Sega Mega Drive compilation game coming out on the forms of not only for the PlayStation 4. You stole my Kirby ability. Give me that Kirby ability back to me. Thank you. Yeah, that kind of reminds me like Nabbit from the forms of New Super Mario Bros. U, or even New Super Luigi U as a playable character, except the fact that you can actually steal your Kirby ability instead of the power-ups. So, anyway though, so I get the feeling I'm most well able to actually die at any moment's notice, so there's gonna be— oh, you stupid Mike. Let's go ahead and replace my partner companion as, Burning Leo, which, by the way, these enemies do have their own names now, which is kind of cool, but even then though, much like it does in Kirby's Adventure and all that stuff, and there goes my first death of the entirety of the playthrough. Hey, I'm trying, folks, I did try, but honestly, that it has been a long time coming since you actually just saw that coming, aren't you? Anyways though, yeah, because much like how it does in Kirby's Adventure, after when you obtain the Kirby ability and all that stuff, once again it just shows you the imagery of what Kirby abilities you're using, which I found was really cool. But I digress. So, yeah, with the Sega Mega Drive, coming onto not only for the PlayStation 4, but also Xbox One, PC, and not Nintendo Switch, which is kind of strange. And, the compilation of the Sega Mega Drive Classics, or in this case a compilation game, is going to be called, as you expected, Sega Mega Drive Classics. And it's going to be releasing on the 29th of May, so even then, no, not too long either. In fact, I think this might actually come out on the exact same month as Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which I found it might be really awesome indeed. Especially notable with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on Nintendo Switch, and Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, both the forms of Nintendo Switch as well. So, actually, I'll get into more details onto that particular stuff when we get into the later portions throughout. But anyways, in this particular final point of this level, is basically we need to deal with every single mini-boss endurance run-through. So even then though, if you manage to able to come across into those situations like this, then beat the likes out of these mini-fights and all that stuff, and then once you do that, well, this level is completely done. So, yeah, you get the idea. Okay then, so let's go ahead and deal with this gold minigame for a final time in Dyna Blade, and we can able to actually hopefully guarantee to get ourselves, once again, 3 1-ups. So naturally I've got my extra life back after that despicably bad death right there by that, you know, enemy I've already encountered. And it looks like I'm actually missing on something right there, so I'll meet you guys back into that point when I need to find the secret area is. Oh, I'm back in this area, and it turns out I actually completely ignored the left side of this part of the section of the level, which by entering in this particular area, it will actually lead you to the second and the final the secret switch. And much like how it does it in the first secret switch, it actually takes you to this familiar star space icon. Means we got ourselves our Kirby ability room number 2. And much like how it does in Kirby's Adventure, and especially noticeable with Kirby's Dream Land 2, much like in those two games, if you manage to collected something or activated something, you can simply just exit out the actual pause menu and you can actually go back to the world map screen, which is pretty cool. and even then, so you don't have to go ahead and finish the level like normal. So, pretty worth mentioning. So, anyways, though, and that's about it, basically, when it comes to Dyna Blade's secrets and all that stuff. It's just only guess, it's just basically just 2 secret switches in addition to those 2 copy ability rooms. So, not much anything else to be said around here, though. To be said that much, to be honest. So anyways, though, so let's go ahead and just keep on, you know, continuing exploring. I would probably try to go after the bomb ability, because the bomb ability might be very handy in the final stage in Dyna Blade. Which even then, though, I really get the thing, it might actually not contain it on that particular copy ability room around here. But even then, though, I might as well have to keep on searching for it. And if not, I'm pretty much have to stuck with the fire ability, at least for now. But even then, I think I have to cope with this, though. So anyways, here we go, on to the final stage in Dyna Blade. And that's the forms of stage number 5. Because again, there's only 5 stages, just like how it does in Kirby's Dream Land 1. But even then, except the fact that some of these levels can get a little bit more slightly shorter. Except that, and also not to mention, there aren't many bosses on that particular Dyna Blade. Unlike Spring Breeze, and especially the future mini titles as far as I'm concerned. Until for later. But for now, let's go ahead and just replace my companion as the forms of, once again, burning Leo right there. I'm actually going to be using my Beam Kirby ability so that we can able to deal with the next boss in Kirby Superstar, or in this case, the only boss in that particular Dyna Blade adventure, is Dyna Blade herself. Basically, for this particular boss, all you have to do is basically just attack her head, and that's all you're really trying to do. I found this boss to be quite tricky in this version compared to what it does in the DS version, because as you can see, if you let Dyna Blade grab you, you need to actually keep on fiddling around with the controls for a while until you're able to actually break free. But even then, no, I just don't know why I keep on getting hit most of the time, because I have no idea why. I'm just paying not much attention to it. But again, it makes it incredibly difficult in this version compared to how it does it in the forms of the DS remake, and yeah, I got owned so easily, so thanks a lot. But luckily though, if I manage to die on this particular fight, it actually just takes me into a copy ability room over here. And speaking of such, let's go ahead and send my another companion with me, which is pretty much the same thing. And I'm actually not going to be using my beam copy ability on this fight, because even then, I don't know if that will actually become effective, I don't think. So anyway, it's time for round 2. Let's go ahead and have a rematch. And this time we're going to have to use our burning, or in this case, fire copy ability to make things slightly easier, but again, her defense is actually slightly higher compared to King Dedede's was this time, in forms of Spring Breeze. So, and by the way, Dyna Blade also made her appearance by the forms of Kirby Right Back at Ya, by the forms of, you know, the Kirby animated TV series. So even then, developed by, you know, 4 kids on the English dub, so I thought it's worth mentioning. So, oh god, I'm always going to be dying again, aren't I, until when we get to that certain point. So anyways, let's go ahead and just, you know, trying to deal with as many fire dashes as I possibly could right there, but it might be pretty tricky to actually pull this off, I think, for me. And, that's all I can really tell. Come on. Oh, just almost there. There we go. Now we've done with Dyna Blade. So, that concludes Dyna Blade. Again, super short, but in the end, we managed to save one of her kids and what have you. And let's go ahead and just take them all the way to Wispy Woods. Why? Because we have to feed their apples. So that way, that should give them some hunger. Until after when we actually decide to explore all over Dreamland. And then basically, as you can see, one of Dyna Blade's kids now actually have wings to fly. So naturally, Dyna Blades will somewhat now forgive Kirby for some odd reason here. And it says to be continued. So even then, you know what that means is that there's going to be more to it than that. So, not digress, so let's go ahead and say right now, after when you beat, I would possibly say 3 games of this compilation, you can expect to get yourselves Revenge of Mennonites, which has now been unlocked. But I'm not going to get into that game just yet, because I would classify for saying right now, I'm going to have to end things off here just as that. So join me next time on Let's Play Kirby Superstar, or Kirby's Fun Pack for the European version of this game on the Super Nintendo, is the fact that we're going to be moving on into the next title of the bunch, and this is going to be a big one actually, the Great Cave Offensive. So, I might be interested what that particular game has to offer though. I'm hoping it won't bring me some more tutorials or anything like that, and I can assuming guessing it might be yes. So, yeah, see you guys next time for that. Later, fellas.